The stagecoach rattled to a stop in front of the dusty depot in Agua Caliente, Arizona Territory, and Katherine Ashford felt her heart hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. She gripped the handle of her worn carpet bag tighter, her other hand clutching the walking stick that had become her constant companion these past 3 years. The accident in the textile mill back in Philadelphia had stolen her sight but not her courage, though at this moment, stepping into a life with a man she had never met, she wondered if courage alone would be enough. "Miss, we have arrived," the driver called down, his voice gruff but not unkind. "Need help getting down?" "Yes, please," Katherine said, her voice steadier than she felt. The late afternoon heat of July 1882 pressed against her face like a warm blanket, so different from the humid eastern summers she had known. She heard boots hitting the dirt, then felt strong hands guiding her toward the step. Easy now. 3 steps down. Katherine descended carefully, testing each foothold before committing her weight. When her boots finally touched solid ground, she took a breath and straightened her shoulders. She was 21 years old, an orphan with no prospects back east, and this was her chance at a real life. The advertisement had been clear. Rancher in Arizona Territory seeks wife. Must be hardworking, honest, and willing to embrace frontier life. She had written back immediately, her friend Martha penning the words as Katherine spoke them. She had been honest about her blindness in the 3rd letter, expecting the correspondence to end. Instead, Logan Sullivan had written back within 2 weeks, "Your blindness does not concern me. I need a wife who can love this land and build a life with me. If you are willing, come. Miss Ashford." A male voice, uncertain and younger than she had expected, called out from somewhere to her left. "Yes," she answered, turning toward the sound. Footsteps approached, hesitant. "I am Logan Sullivan. I hope your journey was not too difficult." His voice was warm, with a slight drawl that spoke of years under the western sun. Katherine extended her hand, and after a moment she felt his fingers wrap around hers. His hand was calloused, strong, but his grip was gentle. "Mr. Sullivan, it is good to finally meet you," Katherine said. "The journey was long, but I am here now." There was a pause, and Katherine could feel his uncertainty radiating toward her. She was used to it. People never knew how to act around her at first, caught between pity and discomfort. "I should tell you," Logan said slowly, "I am not quite what you might have expected. I am 23 years old, younger than most men who send for mail-order brides. My father died last year, left me his ranch. It is a good spread, but running it alone is hard work. I need a partner, not just a wife." Katherine felt relief wash through her. 23 was close to her own age. "And I should tell you, Mr. Sullivan, that while I cannot see your ranch, I can certainly help run it. I can cook, clean, mend, and I used to help keep books for my uncle's store." "I have a good memory for figures." "Logan," he said. "Please call me Logan. Then you must call me Katherine." "Katherine," he repeated, as if testing the name. "That is pretty. Can I take your bag?" She released her grip on the carpet bag, and she felt him lift it easily. "My horse and wagon are just across the way. The ranch is about an hour's ride. We can stop at the church in town tomorrow if you would like, make this official. Or we can wait a few days, let you settle in first." "Tomorrow is fine," Katherine said quickly. She wanted this decided, wanted the security of marriage even if it was to a stranger. "If that suits you, it suits me just fine." There was something like a smile in his voice now. "Come on, let me help you to the wagon." Logan guided her across the street, warning her about ruts and wagon tracks. His hand on her elbow was respectful, his voice patient as he described what lay ahead. "3 more steps, then there is a wheel. I will help you up to the seat." The wagon creaked as she climbed up, and Katherine arranged her skirts as Logan walked around to the other side. The seat dipped as he settled beside her, and then she heard the snap of reins and felt the wagon lurch forward. They rode in silence for a while, and Katherine listened to the sounds around her. Horses nickering, the distant sound of a piano from what must be a saloon, voices calling out in English and Spanish. The air smelled of dust, horses, and something floral she could not identify. "It is mesquite you are smelling," Logan said, as if reading her thoughts. "The trees bloom this time of year. The whole desert smells sweet. You have mesquite on your ranch, some, and cottonwoods down by the creek. The land is dry, but there is water if you know where to look. I run about 200 head of cattle, some horses. The house is not fancy, but it is solid. Adobe keeps cool in summer." Katherine nodded, trying to picture it in her mind. "Do you have help on the ranch?" "I have 2 hands, Miguel and his son Carlos. They live in a small cabin on the far side of the property. Good men, hard workers. Miguel's wife died 2 years back, so Carlos does most of their cooking. He is only 16 but capable. Perhaps I can help with that," Katherine offered. "Cooking for 4 instead of 2 is not much different." "I would not want to burden you." "It is not a burden if I am helping." Katherine turned her face toward where she thought Logan sat. "I came here to be useful, Logan. Please do not treat me like I am fragile." There was a long pause. Then Logan said quietly, "Fair enough. But you have to promise to tell me if something is too difficult. Not because you are blind, but because this life is hard even for those who can see. It takes adjustment." "I promise," Katherine said. She meant it. Pride was one thing, but foolishness was another. They left the town behind, and the sounds changed. The wagon wheels crunched over dirt and stone. A bird cried out, something harsh and wild. The heat began to ease as the sun moved lower in the sky, though Katherine could only judge by the change in warmth on her skin. "Can I ask you something?" Logan said after a while, "Of course." "What happened? If you do not mind telling me," Katherine had known the question would come. "I worked in a textile mill in Philadelphia. 3 years ago there was an accident. A pulley broke and metal fragments flew everywhere. One piece struck me in the face. The doctors tried, but the damage was too severe. I lost my sight completely within a month. That must have been terrifying." "It was," Katherine admitted. "But I learned to manage. I had friends who helped me, taught me how to navigate without sight. I am not helpless, Logan. I just need things described to me and time to learn new spaces." "I will be your eyes," Logan said simply. "And if I am lucky, maybe you will be my heart." The words were so unexpected, so earnest, that Katherine felt tears prick behind her useless eyes. "That is a beautiful thing to say." "I mean it," Logan said. "I am not good with words usually, but my father used to say that the best marriages are when 2 people make each other whole. I can see for both of us. But I have trouble with feelings, understanding what people need beyond the practical. My mother used to despair of me, said I was too much head and not enough heart." "Then perhaps we will balance each other," Katherine said softly. The rest of the ride passed with Logan describing the landscape. He spoke of saguaro cacti standing like sentinels, their arms raised to the sky. He told her about the mountains in the distance, purple in the fading light. He described the way the sunset painted the desert in shades of orange and red and gold. His voice grew more animated as he spoke, and Katherine realized he loved this land deeply. Finally, the wagon turned and Logan said, "We are on Sullivan land now. Another 10 minutes to the house." When they arrived, Logan helped her down and then stood beside her, clearly uncertain what to do next. Katherine heard a door open, footsteps approaching. "Boss, you are back," a man said, his English touched with a Spanish accent. "And this must be Miss Ashford. Miguel, this is Katherine." "Katherine, this is Miguel Reyes." He keeps this ranch running as much as I do." "Welcome, miss," Miguel said warmly. "It will be good to have a woman at the ranch again. The boss's mother, God rest her soul, she made this place feel like a home." "Thank you, Miguel," Katherine said. "I hope I can do the same. Carlos is finishing the evening chores," Miguel continued. "I will tell him you have arrived. If you need anything, our cabin is just across the yard." After Miguel left, Logan took Katherine's arm again. "Let me show you inside. The house is simple. 4 rooms. Main room with the kitchen and dining area, my bedroom, a spare room and a small washroom my father added a few years back." He guided her up 2 steps onto a porch, then through a doorway. The air inside was cooler, and Katherine could smell dust, leather, and something like sage. "The spare room is on the right," Logan said. "I put fresh sheets on the bed this morning. You can have that room until after the wedding tomorrow. Then, well, we will figure out the rest." There was awkwardness in his voice, and Katherine understood. They were strangers about to become husband and wife, expected to share a life and eventually a bed. It was the way of mail-order marriages, but that did not make it less daunting. "Thank you," Katherine said. "Can you show me the room? Help me understand the layout." For the next hour, Logan walked Katherine through the house. He guided her hands over furniture, describing each piece. The table where they would eat, made by his grandfather. The stove, which he admitted he barely knew how to use beyond boiling coffee and frying bacon. The shelves in the spare room where she could keep her belongings. He counted steps between rooms, helped her memorize the path from her bedroom to the main room and to the washroom. "This must be tedious for you," Katherine said at one point. "It is not," Logan replied. "I want you to feel safe here. That means knowing your way around." When her room was settled and Katherine had a mental map of the house, Logan said, "I should let you rest. Tomorrow will be a big day. I will wake you at dawn and we can go into town." "Logan," Katherine said, catching his sleeve before he could leave. "Thank you for giving me this chance." His hand covered hers briefly, warm and reassuring. "Thank you for taking a risk on a cowboy you have never met." After he left, Katherine sat on the edge of the bed, running her hands over the quilt that covered it. The stitching was careful, precise. Made by Logan's mother, perhaps. She lay back, exhaustion finally catching up with her. The sounds of the ranch settled around her. Horses in a corral somewhere, the distant lowing of cattle, crickets beginning their evening song. It was so different from Philadelphia, from the constant noise of the city. Here, there was space, room to breathe. She must have dozed because the next thing she knew, she heard a gentle knock on her door. "Katherine, it is dawn. Are you awake?" Katherine sat up, momentarily disoriented, then remembered where she was. "Yes, I am awake. Give me a moment." She had slept in her chemise, so she fumbled for her dress, the blue one she had saved for this occasion. It took longer than it should have to button it without sight, but she managed. She ran her fingers through her hair, braiding it quickly and pinning it up. When she opened the door, Logan was waiting. "There is water for washing in the basin," he said. "And I made coffee. It is not very good, but it is hot." Katherine smiled. "I am sure it is fine." They ate a simple breakfast of bread and preserves that Miguel had brought over the previous evening. Then Logan hitched up the wagon again, and they rode back to Agua Caliente. The minister at the small church was a kind man named Reverend Thorne, who asked them only the necessary questions before performing a brief ceremony. Miguel and his son Carlos served as witnesses, both dressed in their Sunday best despite the weekday. When Reverend Thorne pronounced them husband and wife, Logan took Katherine's hand and squeezed it gently. "I will do right by you," he whispered. "I promise." "I believe you," Katherine whispered back. They signed the marriage certificate. Or rather, Logan guided Katherine's hand so she could make her mark, and then they were officially Mr. and Mrs. Sullivan. They stopped at the general store on the way back so Katherine could purchase fabric and thread, coffee, sugar, and other supplies she would need to properly run a household. The storekeeper, a chatty woman named Mrs. Daniels, exclaimed over the news of their marriage. "How wonderful! We so rarely get new women in town. You must come to the church social next month, dear. All the ladies will want to meet you." Katherine thanked her, feeling overwhelmed by the woman's enthusiasm but also touched by the welcome. On the ride back to the ranch, Logan was quiet. Katherine could feel his tension and finally asked, "What is wrong?" "I am nervous," he admitted. "I do not know how to be a husband. My parents had a good marriage, but I am not sure I learned the right lessons. And with you being blind, I worry I will fail you somehow." "Logan," Katherine said firmly, "we will both make mistakes, but we will learn together. That is what marriage is it not? Two people figuring out how to be one team." "I suppose so," Logan said. He sounded a bit more relaxed. "My mother used to say marriage was like ranching. You put in the work every day, even when it is hard, and eventually you see the rewards." "Your mother sounds like she was a wise woman." "She was. I wish you could have met her." They reached the ranch, and this time when Logan helped Katherine down from the wagon, his hands lingered at her waist a moment longer than necessary. "Welcome home, Mrs. Sullivan," he said softly. "It is good to be home, Mr. Sullivan," Katherine replied. The first weeks of marriage were an adjustment for both of them. Katherine learned the rhythms of the ranch, waking before dawn to start breakfast for Logan and the hands. She learned to navigate the house with increasing confidence, counting steps and memorizing the placement of every piece of furniture. Logan was patient, always warning her when he moved something, describing changes in the routine. Carlos and Miguel took their meals with them now, and Katherine discovered she enjoyed the company. Carlos was shy but sweet, reminding her of the younger boys she had known back east. Miguel was more talkative, telling stories of the ranch's history, of Logan's father and mother, painting a picture of the life that had existed before Katherine arrived. Boss's mother, Mrs. Maria, she was from Mexico originally, Miguel told Katherine one evening as they washed dishes together. Logan and Carlos were seeing to a pregnant mare. She met Mr. Patrick when he was working on a ranch near Tucson. He fell in love with her the moment he saw her, or so the story goes. Her family did not approve. He was Irish, she was Mexican, and this was 30 years ago when such things mattered even more than they do now. But they married anyway, built this ranch together. "They sound like they were very brave," Katherine said. "They were, and they loved each other truly. That is why I think you and the boss will be happy too. You both have that same courage." Katherine hoped Miguel was right. She and Logan were finding their way, but there was still a wall between them. They were polite, friendly even, but there was no real intimacy. At night, Logan still slept in his own room and Katherine in what had been the spare room. She knew it could not continue forever. They were married, and marriages required more than separate bedrooms, but neither of them seemed ready to broach the subject. One morning, about 3 weeks after the wedding, Katherine woke to the sound of shouting. She got up quickly, pulled on her robe, and opened her door. "Logan, what is happening?" "Stay inside," Logan called. His voice was tense, urgent. "We have a problem with some of the cattle." Katherine heard horses, more shouting in Spanish, the sound of something large moving. She stood in the doorway, frustrated by her inability to help, to even see what was happening. Minutes ticked by, feeling like hours. Finally, the commotion died down and she heard Logan's boots on the porch. "Is everything all right?" she asked as he came inside. "It will be," Logan said. He sounded exhausted. "Some of the cattle broke through a fence, spooked by a coyote or something. Miguel and Carlos are rounding them up. I need to ride out and help. Is there anything I can do? Just keep some coffee hot. We will all need it when we get back. He left again, and Katherine stood in the empty house feeling useless. She hated this, hated being dependent, hated that she could not ride out with them and help. But she could make coffee, could prepare food. So that was what she did. It was mid-afternoon before the men returned. Katherine heard them before she heard their voices, exhausted and strained. She had biscuits ready and a pot of stew that she had managed with Carlos's careful instructions from the previous day. "Katherine, you are an angel," Miguel said as he came inside and smelled the food. "We are starving." The men ate gratefully, and Katherine listened to them discuss the damage. Several cattle were still missing, and the fence would need significant repairs. It would take days of work. After Miguel and Carlos left to start on the fence, Logan sat at the table and Katherine heard the weariness in his breathing. "Long day," she said softly. "Very long," Logan agreed. "And it is going to be several more long days. I am sorry, Katherine, I will not be much company." "Do not apologize," Katherine said. She moved carefully around the table until she was standing beside him, then reached out and found his shoulder. "This is ranch life. I understand." Logan's hand came up to cover hers. "I am glad you are here," he said quietly. "Coming back to find hot food and coffee, it makes a difference. I wish I could do more. You do enough." Logan stood, and Katherine felt him step closer. His hands touched her arms, gentle. "I know you feel limited by your blindness, but you are not. You make this house feel like a home." Katherine's breath caught. This was the closest they had been since the wedding, the most emotionally open Logan had been. "I want to be a good wife to you," she said. "You are," Logan said. His hand moved to her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. "I am sorry I have been keeping my distance. I did not want to rush you, did not want you to feel obligated." "I do not feel obligated," Katherine whispered. "I feel like I am waiting for my husband to truly see me." "I do see you," Logan said, his voice rough. "I see how brave you are, how you never complain even though this life must be so different from what you knew. I see how kind you are to Carlos and Miguel. I see how hard you work to learn everything, to not be a burden." "Logan," Katherine said, and then his lips were on hers, tentative at first, then more certain. Katherine's hands gripped his shirt, pulling him closer. The kiss deepened, and she felt 3 weeks of restrained longing pour out between them. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. "I should not have done that," Logan said, though he had not let go of her. "You are exhausted." "I am not," Katherine said, "and you should have done that weeks ago." Logan laughed, a sound of surprised delight. "Well then, I will have to make up for lost time." He kissed her again, and this time Katherine felt the last wall between them crumble. They were not just two strangers bound by a contract anymore. They were becoming something more. That night, Logan carried Katherine to his bedroom, laying her gently on his bed. He described everything to her, telling her about the room, about what he was doing, making sure she was comfortable. They made love slowly, tenderly, and afterward, Logan held her close. "I think I am falling in love with you," he whispered against her hair. "I think I am falling in love with you too," Katherine whispered back. The days that followed were both hard and wonderful. The work of the ranch was constant and demanding. The fence repairs took nearly a week, and they never did recover all the lost cattle. But in the evenings, Logan and Katherine would sit together on the porch, and he would describe the sunset to her, the way the stars appeared one by one in the darkening sky. He told her about his dreams for the ranch, about wanting to expand the herd, maybe breed horses too. Katherine shared her own dreams, small things she had never dared hope for back in Philadelphia. A garden where she could grow vegetables and herbs, Maybe chickens, so they could have fresh eggs. Children someday if they were blessed. I want that too, Logan said, pulling her closer. All of it. One evening in late August, Carlos came running to the house, breathless and scared. Boss, it is Miguel. He fell from the barn loft. I think his leg is broken. Logan was on his feet instantly. Katherine, get bandages and whiskey. Carlos, help me get him to the house. The next hours were a blur of activity. Miguel's leg was indeed broken. The bone snapped above the knee. Logan set it as carefully as he could while Miguel bit down on a leather strap to keep from crying out. Katherine boiled water, prepared bandages, and held Miguel's hand while Logan worked. When it was done and Miguel was settled in Carlos's room at their cabin, Carlos stayed to watch over his father. Logan and Katherine returned to the house, both shaken. Will he be all right? Katherine asked. I think so, Logan said, but he will not be able to work for months. And we are heading into fall, the busiest time. Can you hire someone else? Maybe, but finding good help is not easy, and we do not have a lot of extra money. Logan sighed heavily. We will manage, we have to. The next weeks were brutal. Logan worked from before dawn until well after dark. Carlos did what he could, but he was young and had to care for his father too. Katherine took over all the cooking and household tasks, determined to ease Logan's burden however she could. She learned to find her way to the chicken coop Logan had built for her, gathering eggs by touch. She tended her small herb garden, the plants growing surprisingly well in the desert soil when watered carefully. But even with all their efforts, Katherine could see that Logan was wearing down. He came home exhausted every night, barely able to eat before collapsing into bed. She would lie beside him, listening to his deep breathing and worry. One morning in early October, Katherine woke to find Logan's side of the bed already cold. She got up and found him at the table, staring at a piece of paper. What is wrong? She asked. Bank note is due next month, Logan said. My father took out a loan to buy more cattle 2 years ago. I have been paying it down, but this next payment is large. With Miguel hurt and the cattle we lost, I do not know if we will make it. Katherine felt fear clutch at her heart. How much do you need? $300. It might as well have been $3,000. Katherine had no money of her own, nothing to contribute. What can we do? I will think of something, Logan said, but he sounded defeated. I always do. Over the next days, Katherine racked her brain for solutions. Logan considered selling some of the horses, but they needed them for ranch work. He thought about taking a short-term job in town, but there was no one to watch the ranch. They were trapped in an impossible situation. Then one evening, as Katherine was preparing dinner, she heard horses approaching. Multiple horses. Logan went outside and she heard unfamiliar voices. Logan Sullivan, a man said, his tone pleasant but cold. That is me, Logan replied, his voice wary. I am Jasper Colt from the bank in Tucson. I understand you have a payment coming due. I do, and it will be paid. I am sure you intend to pay it, Jasper said. But I have been looking at your situation. Your hand is injured, you lost cattle, and frankly, I think you are in over your head. I am here to make you an offer. Sell me the ranch now, and I will pay off your note and give you enough to start over somewhere else. This ranch is not for sale, Logan said flatly. Do not be foolish, boy. You are going to lose it anyway when you cannot make the payment. This way you walk away with something. I said it is not for sale. Think about it, Jasper said. I will be back in 2 weeks. If you do not have the payment by then, I will be taking this ranch regardless. Might as well sell to me and keep your pride intact. Katherine heard the horses leave, heard Logan come back inside. She turned toward him. Logan, I will handle it, he said, but his voice was tight with anger and fear. I will find a way. That night, Logan barely slept. Katherine could feel him beside her, tense and troubled. She wished desperately that she could help, that her blindness did not make her so useless in this crisis. The next morning, Logan was gone before dawn. He came back at midday with Carlos, and they were driving cattle into the yard. "What are you doing?" Katherine called from the porch. "Selling cattle," Logan said. "Taking them to market in Tucson. It is not enough to cover the whole payment, but it will be something. I will figure out the rest." He left that afternoon with Carlos and 20 head of cattle, leaving Katherine alone at the ranch with Miguel, who was still unable to walk. Katherine had never felt so helpless. She could not even check on the remaining cattle or horses, could not do any of the essential work of keeping the ranch running. Logan was gone for 3 days. When he returned, Katherine heard the exhaustion in his footsteps as he climbed onto the porch. "How much did you get?" she asked. 200, Logan said. "Better than I hoped, but still short. I have one more week to find $100. Katherine felt tears burn in her useless eyes. "I am so sorry. I wish I could do something." "This is not your fault," Logan said fiercely, pulling her into his arms. "Katherine, you have to know this is not your fault. But I am useless. I cannot work the ranch, cannot earn money, cannot even see to help properly." "You are not useless," Logan said. "You keep this house running, you feed everyone, you have been taking care of Miguel. You do more than you know." But it was not enough, and they both knew it. The next days dragged by in tense silence. Logan tried everything he could think of. He spoke to other ranchers about short-term work, but harvest season was over and no one was hiring. He asked around town for loans, but no one had money to spare. Katherine prayed harder than she had ever prayed in her life, asking God for a miracle. 2 days before the payment was due, Katherine was in the kitchen when she heard horses again. Her heart sank. Was Jasper Colt back early to claim the ranch? But when Logan came inside, his voice was strange, confused. "Katherine, there is someone here to see you." "Me?" Katherine turned toward the door. "Who? Miss Ashford, or I suppose it is Mrs. Sullivan now." The voice was female, older, cultured in a way that reminded Katherine of Philadelphia. "Yes," Katherine said uncertainly. "I am Katherine Sullivan. My name is Constance Winters. I was a friend of your mother's many years ago. I have been looking for you for quite some time." Katherine felt her heart stop. "My mother?" "Yes, dear, your mother, Elizabeth. She and I grew up together in Boston. I lost track of her after she married your father and moved to Philadelphia. But before she died, she wrote to me. The letter only just reached me. She asked me to find you, to help you if I could." Katherine gripped the back of a chair for support. "I do not understand. My mother died when I was 10. That was 11 years ago." "I know, dear. The letter was lost, misdirected. It has taken all this time to reach me, and then I had to find you. I traced you to Philadelphia, learned about your accident, and then about your marriage and moved to Arizona. I came as soon as I could." "But why?" Katherine asked. "Why did my mother write to you?" "Because she knew I had money, and she wanted to make sure you would be cared for if anything happened to your father. She told me about a trust fund, money she had inherited from her own parents. It was supposed to go to you when you turned 21. Katherine felt dizzy. "A trust fund? I never knew anything about that." "Your father did not either, apparently. Your mother kept it secret, afraid he would spend it. He was a good man, but not a practical one. The money has been sitting in a Boston bank all these years. It is yours, Katherine, $4,000. Katherine heard Logan make a sound of shock. $4,000. It was a fortune. "I have brought bank drafts," Constance continued. "I wanted to deliver them personally, to make sure you were all right. When I learned you had married and moved to the frontier, I will admit I was concerned. But seeing this place, meeting your husband, I think perhaps you have found a good life here." "I have," Katherine said, tears streaming down her face. "I truly have." Constance stayed for tea, telling Catherine stories about her mother, painting a picture of a woman Catherine had almost forgotten. When she finally left, pressing the bank drafts into Catherine's hands and promising to write, Catherine sat at the table in stunned silence. $4,000, Logan said quietly. "Catherine, that is more money than I will probably see in my lifetime." "It is our money now," Catherine said. "We can save the ranch." "No," Logan said firmly. "It is your money, your inheritance. I will not take it." "Logan, do not be foolish. We are married. What is mine is yours." "I will not lose this ranch using your money. I will find another way." "There is no other way," Catherine said, her voice rising. "And this is my choice. Do you think I want to lose this home, this life? I want to use the money, Logan. I want to save our ranch." They argued for an hour, Logan stubborn in his pride, Catherine equally stubborn in her determination. Finally, exhausted, Logan said, "Why? Why would you risk your security for this place?" "Because it is not just a place," Catherine said. "It is our home. It is where we are building our life together. And I love you, Logan Sullivan. I love you so much that your dreams are my dreams. I want to see this ranch thrive. I want to have children here, grow old here. And I want to do that with you, not somewhere else after we have lost everything." Logan was silent for a long moment. Then she heard him move, felt his hands cup her face. "You really love me?" "Yes," Catherine said. "I love you." "I love you too," Logan said, his voice breaking. "I have loved you for weeks, maybe from the moment you stepped off that stagecoach with your chin up and your courage blazing. You are the bravest person I know, Catherine." He kissed her then, and Catherine tasted salt and realized he was crying. When they finally pulled apart, Logan said, "All right, we will use some of the money to pay off the bank note. But the rest goes into an account in your name, money that is always yours no matter what happens." "Our name," Catherine corrected. "The account should be in both our names. We are a team, remember? We are a team," Logan agreed. "My eyes and your heart." The next day they rode into Tucson together. Logan described the city to Catherine as they made their way to the bank. It was larger than Agua Caliente, bustling with people and commerce. At the bank, they met with the manager and paid off the ranch note in full. Logan also deposited the remaining money, insisting the account be in both their names. When they left the bank, Logan was practically floating. "We did it," he kept saying. "We actually did it." On the way back to Agua Caliente, they stopped at the general store and bought supplies. Catherine insisted on fabric to make new curtains for the house and shirts for Logan and the hands. Logan bought her a beautiful shawl, soft wool in a deep blue. "How do you know it is blue?" Catherine asked, touching the soft fabric. "Because blue is your color," Logan said. "It matches your eyes." That night they celebrated with Miguel and Carlos. The older man was healing well, and the doctor believed he would walk again, though with a limp. Carlos was beaming, relieved that his father would be all right and that the ranch was secure. "To Catherine," Miguel said, raising his glass of whiskey, "for saving us all." "To all of us," Catherine corrected, "for being a family." They drank to that, and Catherine felt a warmth in her chest that had nothing to do with the whiskey. She had come west as a desperate woman with no prospects, and she had found a home, a purpose, and a love deeper than she had ever imagined possible. The months that followed were good ones. Miguel healed and returned to work, moving a bit slower but as capable as ever. The ranch thrived. Logan used some of their savings to buy more cattle in the spring, carefully growing the herd. He also bought 2 fine mares and a stallion, beginning the horse breeding program he had dreamed of. Catherine's garden expanded. She planted vegetables and flowers, learning the feel of each plant, able to identify them by touch and smell. She started selling her preserves and pickles in town, and Mrs. Daniels at the general store could barely keep them in stock. Katherine also became known in Agua Caliente for her kindness. She visited the sick, bringing food and comfort. She could not see their faces, but she could hold their hands and listen to their troubles. The townspeople, initially uncertain about the blind woman from back east, came to love her. In December, Katherine began to suspect she was pregnant. She waited to be sure before telling Logan, but when her suspicions were confirmed by the doctor in Tucson, she could not contain her joy. She told him one evening as they sat on the porch, wrapped in blankets against the winter chill. "Logan, I have news." "Good news or bad news?" he asked, always practical. "The best news," Katherine said, taking his hand and placing it on her still flat stomach. "We are going to have a baby." Logan went very still. Then he let out a whoop of joy that probably carried all the way to town. He picked Katherine up and spun her around, making her laugh and beg him to put her down. "A baby," he kept saying. "We are having a baby." "Are you happy?" Katherine asked, though his reaction made the answer clear. "Happy does not begin to cover it," Logan said. He knelt in front of her, his hands on her stomach. "I am terrified and thrilled and so grateful. You have given me everything, Katherine. A home, a future, and now a child." "We have given each other everything," Katherine corrected gently. The pregnancy was not easy. Katherine struggled with sickness in the early months, and her blindness made the physical changes harder to navigate. But Logan was endlessly patient, adjusting furniture as her body changed, helping her when dizziness or fatigue overwhelmed her. Miguel's wife had died in childbirth, and the older man was initially worried for Katherine. But as the months passed and Katherine remained healthy, he relaxed. "You are strong like the boss's mother," he told her. "You will be fine." In late August, as the heat pressed down on the desert, Katherine's labor began. Logan sent Carlos for the midwife, a capable woman named Senora Ortiz, who had delivered half the babies in the territory. The labor was long and difficult. Katherine had never been so scared in her life, not even when she lost her sight. But Logan stayed by her side the entire time, holding her hand, describing everything the midwife was doing, telling her how brave she was. "I can see the head," Senora Ortiz said finally. "One more big push, Katherine." Katherine bore down with all her strength, and suddenly the pressure released. A baby's cry filled the room, strong and healthy. "It is a boy," Senora Ortiz announced. "A beautiful, perfect boy." Logan was crying as the midwife placed the baby in Katherine's arms. Katherine held her son, tracing his tiny features with her fingers. He had stopped crying at the sound of her voice, his small body warm and solid against her chest. "What should we name him?" Logan asked, his hand covering Katherine's on their son's back. "What about Patrick?" Katherine suggested. "After your father, Patrick Miguel Sullivan," Logan said. "After both our fathers." Miguel, waiting anxiously outside, cried when they told him. "You honor me too much," he said. "We honor you exactly right," Katherine told him. "You are family." Young Patrick was a healthy, happy baby who quickly became the center of their world. Logan was a devoted father, often found holding his son and describing the ranch to him, even though Patrick was far too young to understand. Katherine nursed and cared for him, her sensitive touch allowing her to notice every small change in her baby. The ranch continued to prosper. The horse breeding program was successful, and Logan's horses became known throughout the territory for their quality. They hired another hand, a young man named Thomas, giving Miguel and Carlos more time to rest. When Patrick was 2 years old, Katherine became pregnant again. This time, she knew what to expect and the pregnancy was easier. In the spring of 1886, She gave birth to a daughter they named Maria Elizabeth, after Logan's mother and Catherine's mother. Life settled into a beautiful rhythm. The children grew strong and happy. Patrick was adventurous like his father, always wanting to be outside with the horses. Maria was more cautious but equally curious, and Catherine spent hours teaching her the names of herbs in the garden by smell and touch. On Patrick's 5th birthday, Logan woke Catherine early. "I have something to show you," he said mysteriously. He led her outside and she heard Patrick's excited voice. "Mama, Mama, come see." "What is it?" Catherine asked, smiling at her son's enthusiasm. Logan took her hand and placed it on something smooth and carved. As her fingers traced the shape, she realized it was a sign. He guided her hands over the letters carved deep into the wood. "What does it say?" she asked. "It says Sullivan Ranch. Founded 1857. Family is what you make it," Logan said. "I wanted something to mark what we have built, not just the ranch but our life, our family." Catherine felt tears on her cheeks. "It is perfect." "You are perfect," Logan said, pulling her close. "You came into my life when I had nothing but a failing ranch and broken dreams. You gave me hope, love, a family. You are my heart, Catherine. You always will be." "And you are my eyes," Catherine said. "You show me the beauty of this world every single day. I love you, Logan Sullivan." "I love you too," Logan said, and he kissed her as their children laughed and played around them. Years passed, marked by the changing seasons and the growth of their family and ranch. Miguel eventually retired, though he stayed on the property in his cabin, a beloved grandfather figure to the children. Carlos married a girl from town and built a house on the far side of the ranch. They had children of their own, and the Sullivan property became a compound of family homes. Patrick grew into a tall, capable young man who loved the ranch as much as his father did. Maria became a skilled herbalist and healer, her mother's sensitive touch translated into a gift for medicine. The couple had 2 more children, another boy named James and a girl named Constance, after the woman who had saved their ranch. Through it all, Logan and Catherine's love deepened. Every evening they would sit on the porch, and Logan would describe the sunset to her. He never grew tired of it, finding new words to capture the colors. And Catherine never grew tired of listening, seeing through his eyes the world she could no longer perceive. When they were in their 40s, a young couple came to the ranch looking for work. The woman was blind, injured in an accident much like Catherine's. The husband was desperate, unable to find anyone who would hire them. Logan and Catherine looked at each other and smiled. "We will hire you," Logan said. "And my wife will teach you everything she has learned about navigating this life without sight." The young woman cried with relief, and Catherine took her hand. "It will be all right," she said. "I promise. Blindness is not the end, it is just a different way of seeing." Over the years, the Sullivan Ranch became known as a place where those who were different could find acceptance and work. Logan and Catherine hired hands that other ranches would not consider. A man with one arm, a young woman who was simple-minded but strong. An older couple who had lost everything in a fire. The ranch prospered not despite this but because of it. The people who worked there were loyal beyond measure, knowing they had found something rare, a place where they were valued for what they could do, not limited by what they could not. On their 25th wedding anniversary, Logan surprised Catherine with a trip to Tucson. They stayed in a hotel, had dinner at a fine restaurant, and Logan bought her a delicate gold necklace. "It has a charm," he told her, guiding her fingers over it. "A tiny heart with an eye engraved in the center. You are my heart and I am your eyes. Always." "Always," Catherine agreed, tears streaming down her face. That night, lying in the hotel bed, Logan held Catherine close. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked quietly. answering my advertisement, coming to this wild place. Never, Katherine said without hesitation. This life, this family, it is all more than I ever dreamed possible. Do you regret sending for a mail-order bride? My only regret is that I did not send for you sooner, Logan said. Every day with you is a gift. They returned to the ranch to find that Miguel had passed away peacefully in his sleep. The entire family grieved, but they also celebrated his life. He had been 92 years old and had died surrounded by people who loved him. They buried him on a hill overlooking the ranch, and Katherine planted roses around his grave. The years continued to pass. Patrick took over more of the ranch operations, allowing Logan to slow down. Maria married a doctor from Tucson and set up a practice in Agua Caliente, becoming the town's most trusted healer. James became a horse trader, traveling throughout the Southwest. Constance married Carlos's oldest son, keeping the Sullivan and Ray's families joined. When Logan turned 60, his hair had gone silver and his hands were gnarled with arthritis. But his love for Katherine had only grown stronger. He still described the sunsets to her every evening, though his voice was raspier now. And Katherine still listened with the same wonder as the first time. One evening, as they sat on the porch surrounded by grandchildren playing in the yard, Katherine said, "I want to hear about the sunset." Logan smiled and took her hand. "The sky is pink tonight, the color of wild roses. The clouds are edged in gold, like lace on a lady's dress. The mountains are purple shadows against the light. And you, my dear Katherine, are more beautiful than any sunset I have ever seen." "You always say that," Katherine said, smiling. "Because it is always true," Logan replied. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the children play, the horses nickering in the corral, the wind rustling through the cottonwoods. It was a perfect moment, the culmination of a life built on love, trust, and partnership. "I have been thinking," Katherine said, "about everything we have built here. The ranch, the family, the community. It all started with a leap of faith. You took a chance on a blind woman, I took a chance on a stranger." "Best chances we ever took," Logan said. "Yes," Katherine agreed. "But I think the real miracle was not that we found each other. It was that we chose to love each other every single day after that. Through the hard times and the good times, we chose love." "We did," Logan said, "and I would choose you again 1,000 times over." Years later, when Logan was 78 years old, he became ill. The doctor said his heart was failing, that there was nothing to be done. Logan took the news calmly, more concerned about Katherine than himself. "What will you do without me?" he asked one evening as she sat beside his bed. "I will remember you," Katherine said, gripping his hand tightly. "I will remember every sunset you described, every moment of love, every sacrifice you made. And I will make sure our grandchildren and great-grandchildren know the story of how a cowboy fell in love with a blind mail-order bride, and together they built something beautiful." "Tell them I was happy," Logan said. "Tell them that loving you was the greatest adventure of my life." "I will," Katherine promised through her tears. Logan passed away peacefully 3 days later, with Katherine holding his hand, and their children gathered around. They buried him next to his parents on the hill where the roses grew. Katherine stood at the graveside, her hand on Patrick's arm, and felt a strange sense of peace. Logan was gone, but his love remained, woven into every part of the life they had built together. Katherine lived another 10 years, surrounded by family, respected and loved by everyone who knew her. She never remarried. "I had my great love," she told people who asked. "Not everyone is blessed even once. I will not tempt fate by looking for it again." In her final years, she would sit on the porch with her great-grandchildren and tell them stories. Stories of their grandfather, of the ranch, of coming west as a frightened young woman and finding courage, purpose, and love. "Your grandfather used to say he would be my eyes and I would be his heart," she told them. And that is exactly what we were. He showed me the beauty of this world, and I taught him how to feel deeply, to love fully. Together, we were whole. Katherine passed away in her sleep at the age of 89. They buried her beside Logan, and on her headstone, Patrick had them carve, "Katherine Ashford Sullivan." Beloved wife, mother, grandmother, she taught us that blindness is not darkness when you have love to light the way. The Sullivan Ranch continued through the generations, always true to the values Logan and Katherine had instilled. It remained a place of acceptance, hard work, and family. And every evening, whoever was running the ranch at the time would take a moment to watch the sunset and remember the cowboy and his bride who had built it all from nothing but faith, courage, and love. In the town of Agua Caliente, the story of Logan and Katherine Sullivan became legend. People told it to their children and grandchildren, a tale of true love in the Wild West. The story of a mail-order bride who was blind and the cowboy who promised to be her eyes, who said, in return, that she would be his heart. And through the years, through the changes and challenges that time inevitably brought, that promise held true. Logan gave Katherine sight through his words, showing her a world of beauty she could not physically see. And Katherine gave Logan depth of feeling and purpose, teaching him that true strength lay not in independence but in partnership. Their love story, born from necessity and desperation, blossomed into something rare and precious. It proved that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is trust a stranger, take a leap of faith, and believe that love can grow even in the harshest terrain. The Sullivan Ranch stood for more than 100 years, through generations of family, through droughts and depressions and wars. And always at its heart was the memory of the couple who started it all. A blind woman from Philadelphia who crossed a continent to marry a stranger. A young cowboy who needed help running his ranch and found instead the love of his life. They had built something that lasted, something that mattered. Not just a ranch or a business, but a legacy of love, acceptance, and family. Their story reminded everyone who heard it that the greatest adventures often begin with the smallest acts of courage. That sometimes the perfect partner is not someone who shares your strengths, but someone whose strengths complement your weaknesses. Logan had been Katherine's eyes, describing the world to her with poetry and patience. Katherine had been Logan's heart, teaching him to feel deeply, to love fully, to see beyond the surface of things. And together, they had been complete. In the end, that was the real magic of their story. Not that they overcame obstacles or built a successful ranch or raised a beautiful family, though they did all those things. The magic was that they chose each other, every single day through good times and bad. They chose partnership over pride, love over fear, faith over doubt. And that choice, made over and over across 50 years of marriage, created something that would outlive them both. A love story for the ages. A reminder that even in the rough and tumble world of the Wild West, even when life seemed impossible, love could flourish. Love could heal. Love could transform two lonely people into a family, a struggling ranch into a thriving legacy, and a practical arrangement into the greatest romance of their time. The story of Logan and Katherine Sullivan lived on, passed down through generations, a testament to the power of love, trust, and commitment. And somewhere in the Arizona desert, if you listened carefully on a quiet evening, you could almost hear Logan's voice describing one more sunset to the woman he loved. And Katherine's soft reply, telling him she could see it perfectly, because she was seeing it through his eyes and feeling it with his heart.